Welcome to the Stranger Conversations podcast, where we explore the lives and lessons of those around us, hidden in plain sight. I'm your host, Tay Jones. Hello and welcome to the Stranger Conversations podcast. Today my guest is Gregory Pellerito, a former MTV intern who worked on hit television shows such as Cribs and My Super Sweet 16. He is currently the president and CEO of Jackpot Pictures, making his theatrical feature film debut as both the writer and director of the new film Moments of Youth. Gregory is an award-winning director, winning Best Director for a feature film at the Crown Point International Film Festival, and Moments of Youth has won 39 festival awards, including official selection at the International Gold Awards and Best Feature Film at both the Milan Gold Awards and Paris Film Awards. And I'm sure a lot more to come as he's preparing for his next film and also an upcoming TV series. So Gregory Pellerito, welcome to the Stranger Conversations podcast.
Great to be here with you, Tay. Thanks so much for having me on. I'm really excited.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a mouthful. You've got a lot of accomplishments for such a young man. So it's congratulations on everything you've done so far and for the new film. And really looking forward to the conversation and not only learn a little bit about you, but also about your film. And I got to admit, I am a movie lover, so I'm also kind of looking forward to learning a bit about, your creative process, how that works, how you take something from, like this film that kind of goes from your, just your vision to the screen. So I'd love to jump into that. But first things first, we'll get to know you a little bit. And I believe you're on the East Coast. Is that right?
Yes. I live in Stamford, Connecticut, which is about an hour outside of Manhattan, which was where I interned when I was with MTV, right in Times Square there. Wow. I'm in the city a decent amount, and Connecticut has become a really great place to film for film and television. A lot of things have been filmed here over the last decade plus, and it's a lovely setting for movies. So I chose it mostly because I know the area so well, but also. The film was actually originally supposed to be filmed down in Myrtle Beach, but because of the fact that we were going to start right after COVID and everything opened up, Connecticut was kind of the only state that I knew what was happening day to day. So I was like, let me rewrite it to be shot here. And I catered it to basically all the places that I know really well, and that's how we ended up shooting here. But the original script was actually very specific to down south. But I'm thrilled we got to showcase the area that I live in and have grown up in, and it's a beautiful area. So.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. So you did grow up in that area? That's where you were from originally?
Yep, born and raised in Stamford, Connecticut. Went to college here in state also at Quinnipiac. And I've always lived here.
Yeah, how do you pronounce that, the college?
Quinnipiac.
Quinnipiac. I saw that written. I did not know how to pronounce that, so I wasn't even going to try.
Probably, if you see any of the big polls that come up, it's one of the biggest polling institutions in the country. Also, a really great hockey program. We won the national championship in 2023, the Division I national championship. But the polling institution is anything that you see. They'll always cite the Quinnipiac poll pretty much.
Absolutely. I have heard that. I didn't put that together.
Yeah. That's us.
Yeah. You mentioned sports, hockey. I think you said at one of our conversations or via email that you played hockey, I think, maybe multiple sports in high school. So that was all in the same area?
I played hockey all the way straight through senior year of high school, and then I played baseball in college as well. Injury my sophomore year to my shoulder. And love all sports, love hockey, which was, great going to such an awesome hockey school. And when we won the national championship a couple of years ago, it was a really great thing. Baseball growing up, I played in 2 Babe Ruth World Series.
Wow.
And then, then 2 years of college. That was great.
Yeah. That's always tough. Getting injured. I'm assuming that was kind of your dream at that point was,
Sure was. Yeah. I chose, I mean, I chose colleges based on baseball, really. I was getting
yeah,
recruited and those were, the schools that I was looking at. And I tell this story sometime, a decent amount actually. When I found out I was, my shoulder injury was pretty much career ending, I came home that night and I was really upset. And I turned on the TV and a film called Big Fish was playing, directed by Tim Burton.
hmm
And I just, I was just in awe. And, it was one of these kind of life-changing moments for me, in that I just kind of felt like, it was almost like God was just telling me, this is what you were meant to do. And I was already majoring in film, but that was kind of the major moment for me, where I knew, I knew everything was going to be more than okay.
yeah, yeah. That's tough. I mean, but also kind of a blessing. Right? You get injured, and that puts you in the spot to kind of watch a film and think, maybe have a little bit of a light bulb moment and think,
Yeah.
hey, maybe you're already going to school. Maybe I could do this too. So take a different turn in life.
Yeah. I always loved to write, so I always knew I would. Excuse me. I always knew
Yep.
I would do something to do with writing as far as what I would major in. And I always loved movies, so it was like when I was picking schools, I was like, yeah, I think I'll major in film. And then as I got to college, I fell even more and more in love with it. And then of course this big moment with Big Fish, and then I guess the rest, as they say, is history.
Yeah, yeah. And if I got it right, I think you were going to school for film, but also like IT, computer
Yeah,
sciences. Or
minored in computer information systems was
okay.
my minor, which is great because I do also run the business. I do also own a business, so I took all business courses as well, and have I have a minor in business now, which has been very valuable in terms of the business component of running a production company and all the different components that go along with making a film, which in terms of the financial components, the distribution components, all that stuff, is sort of learn as you go, but also having kind of a background in business from school with all the courses I took, and my degree also being there has been incredibly helpful as well. So yeah, it was right, it was right at the, I graduated in 2006. So when computers were really starting to get very, very heavy into the coding and all of the components of what we can ultimately do now, in terms of like the different, which has now developed into the social media world and everything. It was right at the threshold. I was in college when Facebook came out, so I was kind of at the precipice of the new technology, and it was suggestion from my mom, because in my school my college, you had to have a minor, and she said, I think you should minor in business. And it was a incredibly great idea by her, which she always has.
Moms, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy Mother's Day belated to all the moms out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's being the president of the company and also on the creative front, the two do go hand in hand, especially very often during production, in terms of how you allocate the funding, making the right deals on everything, the distribution side of it, tax incentives, which is a huge thing here in Connecticut, as I was saying. It's another really great reason why so much production happens here. As with Arizona, you guys have a great tax credit system for filming as well.
They film quite a bit here. Yeah.
Yeah. So the two, really go hand in hand.
Yeah. Like you said, you were kind of on the precipice of it. I mean, 2004, like Facebook, iPhone came out, 2005, YouTube.
Yep.
It's a whole new world from 2005, 2006 to today.
Absolutely.
So, I can only imagine, being in there kind of learning all of that.
Yeah.
I could see how that would definitely flow into the movie business.
Yep.
One of the things you mentioned, you said you've always been a writer.
Yeah.
I love writing. I like reading. I love writing. Ever since I was a kid, I've wanted to be a writer. And that's the one good thing about being a writer is, to be a writer, all you really have to do is write. you don't necessarily have to have anything published.
Yeah.
You just have to write,
Yeah.
and you're a writer.
Yeah.
But to go from being a writer who just writes for themselves or for fun, or to create something, and then you actually, you write a movie, and then you take that art and turn it into another form of art to direct it.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, what's that process like? I mean, I guess first of all, what even got you to write the movie?
This particular film, yeah. So so first things first is I've always loved the 1980s John Hughes classics and into the 90s. Ferris Bueller's Day Off and Breakfast Club, and
That's
then
my era. That's my era.
Everyone loves them, right? No matter how many times they're on TV, how many times you've seen it, you can never turn them off because they're just so fun to watch, right? And then into the 90s with, American Pie and Can't Hardly Wait and Dazed and Confused and, all of them. I've always loved those. And I have always loved also films that take place in one day, which a lot of them do. I think it's a really cool way to tell a story. And then I kind of got this idea of how cool it would be and interesting it would be to set sort of the night before graduation. And this particular school has an enormous scavenger hunt, which I thought could be really fun, a really cool and exciting experience that I think a lot of high school and college and everybody would be kind of fascinated with watching this take place over the course of the movie. And the first draft of the film basically was a fun night of kids having a scavenger hunt. But then, as I got a little further into it, I realized I really wanted to say something, and I was saying to myself, if I'm going to make a movie about today, what is one of, if not the most pressing and serious issues that kids are confronted with in high school, middle school, even elementary school now, college, and I said, you know what, I feel as though this hasn't really been covered much in movies or television. So I felt this, almost a responsibility that if I wanted to make a film about right now, I had to say something profound. And that's where the big, traumatic issue that we touch upon in the film stems from. But the original draft didn't feature that. It was all kids having a fun night, which would have been a fun movie. But I think what's given us so much, I guess I would say, critical acclaim and response, I think it's because of how we handle it, and what I didn't want to do was show it head on. I wanted to show the effects of what it was like for kids and people years later. And that's basically how it happened in the film, like the way that I show it. And I think, it's a very American story, but it's really translated around the world, which I've been the most happy about in terms of, you were mentioning some of the festivals that we've won. It so many different countries that we've done well festival wise, and now that it's available in pretty much every country around the world. Just about it's available worldwide, which I'm thrilled about because it's getting the exposure that I'm so proud of. But also, I think a big reason for that is because it also touches on a lot of charm and nostalgia, and it's funny. But then this, at the heart of it is this very important issue that's causing a lot of discussion.
Yeah, I did notice it was listed on IMDb as a drama. And, kind of what you had talked about it. It's basic. I'm going to read a little bit about the movie here. So, the night before graduation, they take place in, a fun-filled scavenger hunt. But that scavenger hunt has a massive prize. Yep. But it says, with their dreams on the horizon, they share one epic night of laughs and secrets before their futures begin. But unbeknownst to them, the night serves as a way to overcome a tragedy that's been hindering their growth. So even though it is a drama, it sounds like there is quite a bit of fun and laughter.
Yeah, tons of fun
as well.
Tons of humor, tons of fun, tons of action. They're also racing against the clock because they have to finish the hunt before midnight. So it has all of the components of fun teen American Pie feel. It's just got a serious layer that's kind of undercurrent throughout. And about 3/4 into the movie is when we reveal what that is. We're hinting at it throughout.
And then when you say that it does have, that you wanted to tell a little bit of a story and have, something else in there, did you feel obligated to
I
do
did.
that? You did? Okay.
Yeah, I did. I felt, I felt this very pressing need I just got to a point where these stories were constantly in the news, and they still are. And, I just was like, how can I work this into the film to make it so that it helps in some way, in whatever way
Mm-hmm.
that is, and I wasn't trying to make any huge political statement in any way, shape, or form like that. I just wanted to bring awareness to something that, it is frankly heartbreaking. And I think that, I like I said, I wrote a very fun original script and all of that's still in it. All of those fun and crazy things that they do on the scavenger hunt are all in it. They do a bunch of, but I did feel this obligation to include this component, and then I kind of built the rest of the story around it, and the characters, particularly Carson, who's our main character, he's the most noticeably affected by it. And as the story develops, we start to get more and more pieces of it, and then there's one very big, emotional, heavy scene that it almost it alludes to the fact that this is almost like it's the first time this group of friends is actually talking about it as a group of friends, and that's what I was going for. The night basically serves as their way of finally being able to move forward, and the way in which it ends very uplifting. It has a lovely camaraderie of the friends and stuff, and I think above anything else, the movie is about the relationships, how they help propel you past a traumatic event like that, and you can still hope and dream for the future regardless.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I mean, you have a platform, you may as well utilize it, use it, to kind of, yeah, as you said, this is going around the world. I mean, it's critically acclaimed, so it's good to, I think, probably a good choice for you to throw that in there. Really make it something special, not just entertaining, but something that people can, take something away from besides a few laughs. So
I think that's a great point, because you said entertaining, because it is still entertaining, and it's also saying something. So I think it's it's the best of both worlds for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And you wrote and directed the film, and it sounds like you've always enjoyed writing.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you take your passions into, now it's business.
Yep.
But then now you're directing.
Yep.
Did you find that maybe writing it changed your mind on how you think about writing? Is it not as fun anymore, or did you think the whole process and maybe even directing is now more what you enjoy over the writing?
Oh, that's a great question. So I've always, I've directed shorts, I've directed music videos, I've directed a lot of other things, and anything I've ever written, I've always directed. I've never directed something that I didn't write. Television as well, television too.
Yeah.
But I think I also produced, the film as well, and I think that I love writing. I still love it every bit as much. I think that directing is kind of a combination of everything. And for me, even though I wrote the script, this is how I've always worked. I'm very collaborative on set, and I love hearing ideas in the moment while we're shooting. I love doing improv. I love coming up with things on the spot and changing, what I wrote, in the moment, all the way up until take by take even. So I think the reason for that is because you never know what you're going to come up with when you're in the moment, and there's a lot of talented people around, and a lot of people have really great ideas. I did write the script, but there's a lot of very talented actors, and I've taken ideas all the way up through, production assistants, and I've used them, and some of the things that we changed in the moment are some of my best or some of my favorite moments in the movie, honestly. So I think what I absolutely love about directing is that you have the ability to take what you spent, months or years writing, and
Yeah.
and what you can do the day before when you realize like what things that are working, or a certain actor that you have, or a certain location that you're using, or something that you come up with, just, hey, let's try this, just out of nowhere,
Yeah.
can ultimately take what you wrote and just elevate the movie 10 times. And that's what I love about being in the moment. I also love directing because I love the visionary component of it, in terms of the I always know exactly how I want each shot to look. I know how I want the music to sound. I'm also always writing I always write knowing how I want to shoot each scene, and shoot
Mm-hmm.
each character, shoot each conversation. I often know, I love music, and I almost always know the tone of each scene in terms of music, because music is generally the, kind of the lifeblood behind the film. It carries the emotional weight, right?
Yeah.
So I usually know that as I'm writing, and because of that, I pretty much work with, Corey Green was our director photographer, who's phenomenal. He's an award winner many times over. We started planning the look and the style of the film months and months ahead of time. We had every shot, uh, you know, shot listed. Of course, when we got on set, we used a lot of them, and then we said, "We're here. Let's try something else." And that happened,
Yeah.
every bit as much as storyline goes, that we tried new things. We tried new things as far as camera work goes too. So yeah, I mean, I love that, and I love directing. You have to pivot in the moment a lot, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a million things that can change, or can go wrong, and you have to be really quick on your feet. And I love that element of it. So yeah, I do think directing is kind of a combination of writing, acting, and producing. I think it's a combination of all
Mm-hmm.
three. And I love the idea of you know steering the ship too. Is something I really enjoy.
Yeah. It's interesting to hear you describe it that way, because I think as you were saying it, I realized, everything that I write, I have no plans of turning it into a movie and directing a movie. But when I write, I kind of, I don't know what you call it, your mind's eye,
Yeah,
right?
you see
So
it, right?
when
Sure.
when I'm writing, I could see it. So I could see how you would take that, and that would almost be a little bit easier. Like you said, you kind of go into it knowing what the feel and how you envision it. But I could also see working with the different actors, and even just maybe even something small like somebody's voice. Maybe the line change
Yeah,
because of the way that they say it. It would be better
absolutely.
like this, and
Yeah,
that change in the moment.
yeah.
You mentioned, yeah.
It,
Go ahead.
sorry, I was just going to say that the way in which a person says a line that's written versus the way that they would naturally say it can make a huge
Yeah,
a huge world of difference. Just in changing one
yeah,
word, or even an inflection, just can change the entire way that the scene plays. And that's 100% the case. What
yeah.
you said.
Yeah, and I'm always interested in people, who have plans in their life, and which is a lot of what this podcast is. They have plans in their life, and it didn't work out for one reason or the other. They have a big shift and a change, and I feel like that is kind of what you were just describing. Even just the movie business, and you're making the movies, and you have to kind of pivot in the moment. You said, um, you know, did getting injured and kind of changing you had a trajectory towards sports, D1 baseball, gone in an instant. Does that help you in your new career and business to deal with problems that come up, maybe things that aren't what you expect?
I think absolutely it does. I think I've always used professionally the same mindset that I always had in sports, which is, you work really hard, you don't quit, you always work as hard as you can, and you have to, in sports, you have to have a quick memory, and there's
Mm,
the next at bat, or the next game, whatever it is. You can't be fixated on, you know, what happened, yesterday, right? So
yeah,
I think that patience on a film set, as far as directing goes, is invaluable. And I think that for me, the way I've always looked at it as, um, while I was on set, no matter what went wrong, or anything that ever goes wrong, I always just I always just tell myself, there's nothing, this isn't a real big deal. We're making the film. The hard part is getting the film off the ground. So I'm always like, whatever happens on set, we'll figure it out. That's what kind of always been my mindset. It's always my mindset in writing too. Like there's always a way to fix whatever you need to in terms of story goes. I think that sports certainly gave me a lot of my sort of, I guess, way I look at making a film, but also just life in general. I think in terms of the leadership component, I think being a captain of teams, which I was growing up, very, very helpful in terms of directing. Because that is what you are kind of you're a captain when you're the director, right? And I think that, really, I think if simplistically put, you're on a team, and you're on a team when you're making a film, right? It's a very similar concept, and I think that no matter what, story wise or production wise, you can always improve it. You can always fix it. So you'll never see me getting upset on set. You'll never see me getting upset when I'm writing, because I know that I'm optimistic always in that I'll always find the best solution for it, or we will as a team.
Yeah, a lot of correlations there, and it kind of seems that without sports and your injury, you wouldn't be in the film business, and in the film business, you wouldn't be as successful without the sport. So they kind of went hand in hand there.
I've never really wondered what would have happened, had I not gotten injured. I assume I still would have eventually found my way here, but this is the way it happened. So, and it's the way it was supposed to.
Yeah. That's also interesting what you were saying about, once you're on set, then, that stuff is easy because to get it off the ground, but not being in the business, I guess I wouldn't have really thought about that, but it probably is an enormous effort to get something greenlit, right? To get to the point of actually making the movie is probably a massive undertaking in and of itself.
Getting a film funded is very challenging. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of long hours. It's a lot of meetings. It's a lot of presentations. It's a lot, and it takes years sometimes to get a film made. That is why I have the attitude when I'm on set. I'm like, well, we did that. That's the hard part. So
right.
What if the location we had just told us we can't shoot there? We'll find another one. That's the way I look at it. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Pivot. Figure it out. Right. It's not impossible. Just got to figure it out.
Exactly.
You're writing a movie, and, I can only imagine anyway that, about high school. I mean, high school is kind of a magical time for most of us in our lives, right? So you're writing moments of youth. Did you bring a lot of what, high school relationships, funny people you knew, or is there a correlation with some of the characters with maybe some real life of Gregory back in high school?
Yeah. There's a lot. So I've been asked a lot, is it autobiographical, which it isn't, but there's a lot that I used from growing up. There's a lot of, I did have a scavenger hunt in high school, my senior year, which we did win. My team did win, which I've promised to release the pictures of us winning, which I will do at some point.
No major prize, though, I take it.
Nothing like what was won here. Yeah, we won a fraction of that, but that's okay. It's all about the experience and winning. But yeah, I mean, I think in terms of the one family, the coach and his wife, Coach Papadopoulos, and who's played by Gary Pastor, and his wife played by Sherry O'Terry. They're kind of the house that the kids always gravitate to, and my house growing up was always that, and I made it feel like in the film that these kids always gravitate to this house. And also I think, just in terms of how close this group of friends is similar to my friends. who I'm still very good friends with, still to this day, and have been, pretty much my whole life.
Yeah.
And I think, I think also just the just kind of the vibe of the film, being when you watch it, it's definitely feels like a beach town, which Stanford is on the water, and it has that kind of beach vibe in the film. And while
Mhm.
I didn't do a lot of the things in the scavenger hunt or that the kids did, you know, similar stuff like the stadium that we shot at for the base. There's a baseball scene. I played on that field hundreds of times. My brother and I both did. Well, my friends did.
Wow.
Um, Actually, the second Babe Ruth World Series that I spoke of was hosted at that stadium. So it's not autobiographical, but there's a lot of heart that I put into it that is close to home for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that's special. I don't know what it is about kind of being young and dumb, as we all are when
Yeah.
we're young and in high school, but just kind of you're living life to its fullest, like tomorrow doesn't matter. um,
Right.
and then it always seems to just kind of mark a space in our lives and our
Mhm.
heart. But that's got to be pretty special for you to go back
Yeah.
to these places. A lot of people live in the past, and you could be the guy at the bar that's talking about, oh, back in my
Yeah.
college days, and if I wouldn't have torn my shoulder, I would. But now you're there. I mean, you're shooting a movie in places that when you were a kid, you were doing, baseball, and it's got to be that's got to be pretty fulfilling in your life to kind of look back and think that you just keep moving forward, right? And you're getting better every day,
Yeah.
and you're not stuck in the past. So that's pretty special.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
awesome too that you
So
have a lot of friends that you've kept from high school too. That's special too.
yeah, a couple of them are in the film actually.
Oh,
That
really? Yeah.
we shot during COVID, like right after everything kind of opened up. So it was difficult in terms of like who was able to come, and there's a lot of regulations in terms of testing and things like that. But I tried to get as many. Well, a lot of my family is in the film. But it was a great point that you made there. You know, I would say that something that I feel when I watch the film and when I was making the film is, and I think that it's been used a lot by a lot of people, is nostalgia. I think
Hmm.
you're brought back to that time in your life, which was, everyone remembers that time, like you said, being young and carefree and having a great time, but also, the precipice of like the future is always so uh, something that seniors or even college graduates, they're straddling like the two worlds.
Yeah.
It's on that line of youth and what's next. And I think that nostalgia is something that, whether it's kids who are around the age of our main characters or well into their 60s and 70s, people have said it really resonated with them because they're like, I remember a guy just like that who did X, Y, and Z. Me and my friends did something, we did something just like that. It brought me right back to 1983 when I was in, I've heard that from so many people, and that makes me
Hmm.
smile because that's exactly what I was hoping for. And, and I think that I go back to, like Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I think that's what your generation specifically loves about those films is they're like a time capsule of the 80s, right? It just feels like your
Yeah.
childhood when you watch them. And I think that what I'm really pleased with is no matter how old anybody is who's watched this film, they really relate to it in some way, regardless of it is of course focused on high school kids, and Gen Z
Hmm.
is the one of, if not the most targeted audiences for the film. But
Yeah.
I made sure that all generations could really relate to it and really enjoy it, and that's the feedback that I've got, which I've been really pleased about.
Yeah. I mean, a testament to good writing and good directing.
Thanks.
Actually making making that connection from the page to the screen, like I was saying. Obviously this takes quite a bit to put these movies together, get it greenlit, actually make it. What kind of time frame are you talking? Like, I mean, say not the whole writing and everything, but you have something, you say, okay, I have a movie here.
Mm-hmm.
How long does it take from there to even just getting the movie started? And how long does it take to film a movie?
Sure. So, okay. So this, because of the timeline with COVID. So basically, I wrote the first draft about a year prior to when I said, okay, I want to put into motion the plan to make the film. I wrote the first draft, brought everybody together. It was right in the heart of the shutdown. So it was fall of 2020. And I said, when everything opens up, yeah, I said, when everything opens up, I want to go and shoot the film. And that's when I had just rewritten it to be set in Connecticut. That was the goal. When things opened up, we were going to get it. We were going to try to get it going right then. So the next couple of months were spent retuning the script and raising the funding, putting all those pieces together. And it was July 6th of 2021, which is July 6th is my mom's birthday and July 7th is my birthday. I got the official word that the film was fully financed on that day, which was a great birthday present for both of us. Mm-hmm. So then we went right into pre-production and shot September and October of 2021. That was the bulk of the film being shot. Now, because of the challenges of COVID, we were limited in terms of how we could cast. So the bulk of the actors were from New York, and everyone had to be COVID tested, PCR test 48 hours prior to coming to set. Every single time we tested on set 3 times a week. It was a lot of regulations still in place. However, we had we never had a positive test, which I was wonderful. But then we didn't complete production in that fall because Omicron hit. And then we had a lot of our actors who we cast from New York moved away, and we had to bring them back. So we then filmed again in April of 2022. And then the thing that took about a year and a half was booking the private jet, which is in the film. It took a year and a half to book it. We did that in July of 2022. Then we shot more in that fall, and then we started editing. And then I knew kind of what I still needed to get in terms of shots that we didn't complete. So we edited through 23 and then finished production in January and February of 2024. And then continued editing straight through, and then started the festival route. And then our wonderful distributor, Buffalo 8, acquired the film right after the new year of 2025. And then the plan was
a long journey.
Yeah. It's a little longer than than a typical film would take because of COVID. But yeah, it several years.
Yeah, man. Talking about some stick-to-itiveness, right? Yeah. I mean, that's there's got to be parts of that you didn't find very much fun, I would assume.
Well, I would say
that be accurate?
I would say the most challenging component was the COVID regulations. We had a COVID compliance officer, and he had a bag that was, for with all the items that he needed for safety and everything for the whole production. Then he had a separate bag that was just for me, because everybody had to be isolated when we weren't filming. They had to be separated by groups that they're in. However, I'm the only one who talks to literally everyone on set. So he had a bag just for me that would be, for whatever I needed to do. It was specific just for my own, health and safety and everybody else's. But again, I mean, I guess I would say, I would say the sports, as you said, stick-to-itiveness. We were making a movie, so I was always focused on, it's a good problem to have. Whatever these problems are,
Yeah.
I know that I'm gonna make it a great film. I know that what we shot was great, and now when it came time to start editing, I was like, now I'm seeing it pieced together. Um, but I think with the way everything happened, I think I'm thrilled with the way it went because we ended up with the exact film that I wanted to make. We ended up with a wonderful studio behind it. We ended up with a really great festival run, and we ended up with a really great release. And I think, all of those things happened because of kind of the circuitous route we took.
Yeah. And and I just naivete, I was kind of thinking making a movie that maybe the hard part would be different personalities and stuff, but now I'm starting to think that it's logistics.
Oh
But
yeah, yeah. And again, I would say I'd say the hardest part is getting the movie made by far. You know,
yeah,
um, that is definitely the most difficult part. Raising funding, uh, you know, piecing together different components in terms of schedules and catering and casting and locations. All that stuff is work, but it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
yeah. And as far as personalities, I mean, I guess it really just depends. But I know you know, leadership is a special skill, and when you were talking about coming from the sports world, and you kind of talk about leadership akin to like a captain of a team. That's
Yeah.
so obviously that right there is kind of a special talent that you must have. So that probably really helps with the personality piece. So you can focus on everybody working together for that common goal of getting this movie done and making it the best that it can be. Working together. It sounds like you're that team player from your sports background. So that's great. I
Yeah,
did wonder
absolutely,
too. Yeah,
absolutely. A great point to kind of dovetail on that is that I think a
yeah,
lot of directing is managing different kinds of personalities and knowing how to um, communicate with each person that is specific to getting, you know, the best either performance from an actor or the best work from a crew member or whoever it is, and keeping everybody happy. I think
yeah.
you have to know how to manage a lot of different personalities. I think that is a huge, enormous, enormous, enormous skill set that a director needs to have. So that was a
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah, in a lot of leadership, a lot of people try to make people as good as they are, but it's try to make them as good as they can be, instead of that.
Yep,
So to push people outside of their box and to get them to even be
yep.
better than you as the leader. So, um, you mentioned something in there about the actors coming from, like, you had to have actors from a certain place because of COVID. I've always been kind of wondering about that. Like, as a director, it sounds like you producer and all that. But do you have a lot of say in the cast, or does somebody just say, "Here's your actors. It's these people"? What's that process look like? What do you get the say of in that
For
process?
for me, I had pretty much the 100% say in every role. I
Yeah.
know that's not always the case, and rightfully so. A lot of times, a lot of companies, if they're involved or whoever it is, a lot of people will deserve and want to say, but kind of our whole team and everyone sort of said, we'll go with, everyone gave me like their suggestions and they helped and things like that. But every single actor in the film, every single crew member, was my choice. And every intern, we have a whole intern program that we're running for marketing.
Hmm.
Everyone's been, my own personal hire. Um,
Great.
and yeah, yeah, I was very lucky in terms of the cast that we landed. Everyone was just so great with the role that they're in. And yeah, it was my call on every single one.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, it's also another layer of ownership and accountability for you. With the movie,
Yeah,
that
look,
final outcome. It's a lot on you.
yeah, look, hundreds of people worked on this film, but it'll only ever say a film by one person, right? So
Right.
you have to be 100% confident and comfortable with your choices because it will always say a film by just the one person. It is obviously the film of many people, but
Hmm.
there's only one. Well, in some cases there's two directors, but
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and this film, Moments of Youth, I mean, I was looking at IMDb, 7.4 stars on IMDb. I mean, I look at IMDb all the time. That's like one of my favorite websites to go to. Every time I'm looking at, I always go on there and I look up, the actors, the trivia, all of that. And 7.4 star. I don't think I've ever watched a movie that had that high of stars that wasn't good. So this obviously is a good movie, and I can't wait to watch it.
thank you.
But how does it feel? Yeah, how does it feel to have kind of created something that people are truly loving?
You know, I'm incredibly proud. I'm honored by how much the film has meant to so many people. I'm humbled by what the critics have written about it. And you said about the ratings. Actually, like just last week, one of the critics did a piece, and he did um, a piece called "Goodbye to Youth," and it was inspired by Moments of Youth, and it had Dazed and
Hmm.
Confused, it had Perks of Being a Wallflower, it had American Graffiti, 7 or 8 films, and ours, and
Wow.
what it had was his ranking of all of them, and then the IMDb ranking for all 7 or 8, and
Hmm.
we had a higher ranking than some of them, and we were right in line with the highest ones. So I think
It's great.
our very first review said that the film deserves to be spoken of with the same kind of reverence as Dazed and Confused, Breakfast Club, and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And I mean, I couldn't ask for a better compliment. The films that inspired me to make the film were now being spoken of in the same breath.
Hmm.
I guess I have an enormous sense of pride and joy for you know what we've accomplished and what we continue to accomplish, and support from you and everybody who's um, giving us so much support for and platforms to talk about it. I am incredibly
Yeah.
grateful for that as well. So the more success we have, the more I get to talk about it, which I love speaking about it, and I love talking about movies in general. But talking about mine
Yeah.
is really fun.
Yeah. And it's always a little easier when it's out and it's doing well.
Yeah.
Are you pretty critical on yourself though? I mean, or did you know this was going to be a hit film? Or if not, I know a lot of artists are kind of, they're kind of down on themselves about their art, but were you confident this is going to be a hit,
Yeah, so I would say I'm the opposite. I'm a confident guy.
Great.
Again, I think that comes from sports. I've always been a confident guy. I knew it was going to be a really great film, but that doesn't mean I don't still take the time to really appreciate the response and the success. I've really celebrated it. I I'm thrilled that it turned out the way that I envisioned it would. Um,
Hmm.
I'm not hard on myself because I'm confident in that in my abilities, and like I said, I knew that this was me making the film. So I was very confident that I would make a great film, and ultimately that's why I'm thrilled that so many people agree. I guess is what I
Yeah.
would say is what I intended. Now I know a lot of people are very hard on themselves and they're hard on their work, but I'm like I said, I'm a very optimistic guy, and I think that um, confidence is something you have to be as an athlete, absolutely, and you
Hmm.
also have to be very confident as a director because of how long sometimes these roads are to get to success, and you know. How many times you hear no, and then ultimately you hear a yes and everything changes. That's kind of some of the best advice I can give to young filmmakers, which is you just got to hear yes one time and keep going, because
Right.
one time will change everything for you. And the other thing I
Absolutely.
tell young directors, because I'm asked that a lot, is just go make a film. Doesn't matter if it's on a cell phone. Cell phone quality is tremendous now. Doesn't matter who's in it. Just go make something and get it into festivals. And there's so many different places to distribute films now, way more than there ever has been. And movies are way cheaper to make because of the technology that's available on cameras and editing and things that you can do on your own. So I, I,
Yeah.
I those are the kind of the best pieces of advice when I'm asked of what I would tell young directors or young actors or anybody in the industry that's hoping to make a film or make a TV series.
Yeah. That's great advice. Um, I know we talked earlier about, you know, being in sports and you got to have a quick memory. Yesterday's, you know, what do they say? Yesterday's home run
Yeah.
or today's home run doesn't win tomorrow's game, that type of stuff.
Yep.
But
Yep.
having a quick memory, it's good to turn yourself around from a loss. But do you find that having a quick memory will be something that you will use to, be confident in your next endeavors, but to maybe not be overconfident? Kind of that's past us. We're moving on and we're starting fresh. Do you think
Yeah.
it's important, I guess, to have a quick memory even from the wins?
Yeah. I think overconfident is not good ever. I think confidence without being cocky is a very fine line,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to the next film, because it, I will use everything I learned on this film for the next one, and I'll learn all the things that worked and things that could have been um, you know easier, and we've
Hmm.
already started organizing that way based off of what we know could have been improved upon. And I think
Right.
I think that always trying to be better is why Michael Jordan's Michael Jordan, and why the greats are the greats, right? As far as sports go, because they're always
Yeah.
striving to be for another success. So I think it's the same as movies, because I will on the next one do everything I possibly can to make an even better film, or TV series
Hmm.
when that time comes. But
Yeah.
they say about athletes is the real great ones is they hate to lose more than they love to win.
Yep.
Um, so I think that they erase those victories because they just don't want to ever lose. Um, and for me, I've learned on throughout this process really to really celebrate the successes, and I've
Hmm.
been doing that a lot. Um, Whereas in sports, I think like I said, I think the great ones don't necessarily celebrate it as much, um,
Right.
even if they are super confident and know they're great.
Give it a day or two and then back to practice.
Exactly.
I mean, the success of this film has been celebrated quite a bit. 39 film awards that we had talked about. I mentioned a couple of them at the beginning, but obviously there's been a lot more. I mean, I'm not familiar with all of these festivals and things, but is there one award that Moments of Youth has won that it means the most to you or is the most special?
Ooh, that's a good question. Hmm.
I'm sure they're
I
all great, but
Yeah. Let's see. I would probably say I would probably say it's not necessarily a specific festival, but I would probably say is the ones that we've won in, say, Europe and other countries versus America,
hmm.
because I think with Moments of Youth, I I always viewed it as a very American teen story.
Hmm.
But as we started to get into the festival circuit and we started to have this success in many other countries, I think that is something I'm really proud of, is the awards that we've won, not in America. Of course, I'm really proud of the American ones too, but
Yeah.
because I am so thrilled at the response overseas. I think that that's something that I've really, really, really valued. Um, and I think you said the Milan, a lot of the countries in Europe really we won some really good awards in. So I would say those, and then the Crown Point one was really great. Um, the Festival of Cinema NYC where we premiered was in New York City was
Hmm.
wonderful. We were nominated for a couple of awards, didn't win any, but it was just an awesome experience that I got to premiere them. I think that's not really. I would say that was really great because the first time I watched the film on the big screen, it was at Festival of Cinema NYC, and it was the premiere. I had never seen it on a big screen, and it was with everyone, my whole family, all my friends, all the cast and all
Yeah.
the crew. So I would say that I'll call that an award in itself, because of what it meant, and it was really, really great that it was the first time it's screened publicly in the United States, and we were all able to go. So I would
Yeah.
probably say that that reward in itself was incredibly, incredibly special to me.
Yeah. I was kind of thinking about that. I can see, how you're talking about some of these things over in Europe. I
Yeah.
mean, you you show some of your art to, your echo chamber, your bubble,
Yeah.
and they're probably gonna like it. I mean, not that everybody in America is the same, we all like the same stuff, but I can definitely see how, winning awards in other countries and stuff, it's almost like your art like kind of transcended culture, and it's like, wow, I did make something special because a lot of people in a lot of different places like it. It
Yep.
touches them. So yeah. Um, well, what's next for you, Gregory? You got some, obviously you had another film and a TV series.
Yep.
What's on the plate?
Yeah. So we're getting ready to start putting the pieces together for the next film, which is also sort of in the same kind of tone and feel of Moments of Youth. It's another sort of heartfelt comedy, and we're hoping to probably get into production. I would think probably sometime early next year would be the goal. And
Great.
then the other thing is we're gonna probably start working on the first TV series, which is we actually have two in the works television wise.
Hmm.
One's a thriller, takes place in the late night talk show world.
Awesome.
Yep, and the other one is is a is a show called Every Day's a Holiday, and every episode is a different day on the national holiday calendar. Uh,
Okay.
and it's kind of it's a comedy slash family kind of show. So those are the two TV series. Film is actually looking like it's going to be the very first script that I wrote. It's called The Final Score. I wrote it in
Hmm.
college. That is very close to autobiographical. It's about a star hockey player who got injured his final game in high school, but he was always secretly a really great musician. He
Hmm.
goes to college, and it's kind of his transition from athlete to musician. Um, and it's also got a really great love story in it too. So it's
Wow.
it's a fairly similar story to the one I told you a little while ago.
Yeah, man, that's great. That,
Yeah.
it's pretty exciting.
Yep.
Your career's, it's going in many different directions. That's amazing.
Yeah.
As far as moments of youth, I mean, where's the best place for people to watch that film?
Sure. So it's available on Amazon in the United States and the UK. It's available on Plex, the entire world. It's available on Buffalo 8, our distributor's private YouTube channel worldwide. It's available on Tubi in the US, Australia, and Canada. It's available on pretty much every cable outlet, and it's also on cruise ships. It's in hotels. It's yeah, pretty much anywhere you want to watch it, it's available.
That's great.
which is wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah, fantastic. And then as far as people follow along with your journey, I'm excited to kind of see what's next for you. And, when things come out, I'm assuming, you have social media, Jackpot Pictures at social media. Where's the best place for people to learn more about Gregory, Jackpot Pictures, and everything that you have coming up?
Yep. So I've actually just started doing some videos, some behind the scenes about the film and taking questions from fans on Instagram and putting them on my social media. But my Instagram is my kind of the main place I work off of for social media. It's Gregory_Pellerito 21. 21 was my jersey number in sports. So I use
nice.
Yeah. And then Moments of Youth on Facebook, Jackpot Pictures on Facebook. Moments of Youth _movie on Instagram, and we are also on TikTok for the film. I am not on TikTok, but the film is on TikTok.
Awesome. Well, I'll make sure that we get all the links put down into the show notes so that people can click on that and learn more about the film and you and Jackpot Pictures. So, yeah, it's great. Man, it was a great conversation, and I kind of want to end our interview with a review that I saw on Moments of Youth, and this one's from Light Deck Film Festival, and I think you kind of alluded to this earlier, but this is the review of it. It says, "Moments of Youth deserves to be spoken of with the same reverence as Dazed and Confused, The Breakfast Club, and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It is, without a doubt, a time capsule we will look back on for years to come." I mean, that's quite quite impressive to be placed in the same category as such iconic films as those. I told you that that's my era. So congratulations on all the success of your film. Really looking forward to following along with you, your journey, seeing kind of your future work, and just thank you again for coming on the Stranger Conversations podcast and sharing your story and about your new movie, Moments of Youth.
Thanks so much. This was a blast. I'm so happy that you invited me on, and I look forward to coming back. This was really, really fun.
Absolutely. Well, I look forward to
and for all the support.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I look forward to seeing your name again on the big screen, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Tay. Thank you so much. It's been great.
Great. Have a good night.
You too.